Hi everyone, Marika here with another video, and today I'm doing some Distress Oxide ink backgrounds for some cards, and I also have the card part in this video. So I just recently got the Oxide inks home. I ordered them from Simon Says Stamp. I got the whole set because I thought they seemed to be very cool and I wanted to play with them. So I started playing around and I got 4 cards out of it, or 4 backgrounds out of it. So I'm starting off with some watercolor cardstock, which I'm kind of just pulling through so I kind of get a gradient. There's a couple of different differences between doing the smooching technique with the Oxide ink and doing the smooching technique with the ordinary ink. One being that you get a coverage with these inks. They are partly pigment inks, and that pigment will give you a really good coverage. Also, another thing with them is that when you have dried them and you dip them again, they kind of don't mix that much. You can kind of leave the wet water there and do stuff, but just when you dip them, it doesn't really mix that much. So you can kind of layer them with these thick pigment dots and everything, which gives a whole other effect than the ordinary distress inks. So really looking forward to making more backgrounds like these. And then I finish it off by just spraying a little, waiting for a little while, and then dipping or drying it off. So I get an extra texture by removing that water and removing a little bit of color with it. My second background, I'm actually playing around with something called Distress Microglaze. This is something I had in my stash for a while, but I didn't realize that it was as awesome as it was. So I haven't really used it. So I have a stencil, I have a little blender tool, and I'm doing these kind of smooching motions because that's one of the best ways to get this down onto the stencil without getting it under the stencil. Little thing, when this dries, it really dries. So you have a separate blending foam for that, and when you clean off your supplies, do it with alcohol. You don't have to clean it off immediately, you can let it wait and then you can clean it off with alcohol much later. But I thought I wanted to show you how I clean my stencil, and without that you have to clean it with alcohol. Then I'm giving a lot of water into the inks because I want it to be very fluently, and then I push it in. And what the cool thing is, when you have the glaze on, it still feels like paper, but it resists. So it's like a distress resist technique without needing the embossing powders and everything, which I think is pretty cool. So the background then just is a very simple one because I did do this on white cardstock, and I have a stencil that leaves a lot of white. This is kind of leaves big areas. This is what it ended up being, and I think I like it. I really like it. For my third background, I'm doing a combination of blending and stamping. So first I'm using the Faded Jeans Distress Oxide ink, and I'm blending onto it, and I don't want it to be even, I don't want to be very dark, I just want it to be kind of like a stormy sky or something like that. So I would really keep those spots in it. I want that texture, that's what I'm after. Then I'm spraying it to get a little bit more texture with those kind of white dots, drying it off. And then we're coming to the third part, and that is I'm gonna do some background stamping. These inks are actually stampable, and this is one of the things I really looked forward with this because I love the Distress ink colors, but I'm always a little bit sad that I can't really stamp with them. But you can actually stamp with these. So I'm using my favorite thing, background stamp. I think it's called Linen or something like that. But it will be listed in the description down below. I felt I missed a little bit, and I thought I would use the kind of oxiding effect of this ink. So I just mix it with a little bit more water, and then I stamped it again. This kind of makes the stamp not stamp as clean, but it was a background and I didn't really mind. For the fourth background, I'm doing some blending, and this is when the Oxide inks really shine for the blending. They're much better at blending than the other inks. However, they're also very much easier to pick up fingerprints. A few things when you blend: you never want to use the foams you used with the Distress Oxides. You don't want to use them with your inks, because that will contaminate the ink pads. So you want to have separate foams for the Distress Oxides and the ordinary Distress inks. Also, just lost the thread. Mama, sorry. These do blend very beautifully, and they blend best on top of Bristol cardstock. So I've heard everyone say it, and I tried it out in different cardstock, and it blends magnificently on Bristol cardstock. So if you have the opportunity to get some Bristol cardstock, really try it out. It blends beautiful. Then I do a little bit of spritzing again with the Distress Spritzer on the setting for Distress Spritzing. And then again, I just wait a little while, kind of count to 10, 15, 30, something like that. And then I just dry it off to get those kind of spotty effects. And I think it is, the farther you wait, the lighter it is. Then I'm going to do some stamping, because we're going to use this My Favorite Thing MERMAZING stamp set. So I'm putting up all of the different stamps that I'm using in the Misty, because I'm going to stamp this twice. I'm using the Memento Tuxedo Black ink, because that I'm going to color this with Copics. I'm doing it on the Make It color blending cardstock. That is my favorite. And as these stamps were new, I needed to ink them up again. But because I have the Misty, it didn't really matter. I re-stamped all the little ones after I stamped both of the sheets. And then I have a whole bunch of different characters. So I'm going to start off with the Little Mermaid. This mermaid is actually colored as Ariel. I usually try to stay away from Ariel when I do mermaids, just because. But I thought it would be fun to do a kind of Ariel inspired mermaid for once. So I'm starting off, as you can see, I'm just using 4 different colors for the skin, because they are so small characters and I don't need those really defined shadows. I actually chose to leave out the EO4, kind of makes them a little bit softer also. And then I'm using 4 colors for her tail, but I could have used 3 actually, because you can leave out the 25. So you use the EO3, IG03, IG01 and the YG17. Then I'm doing like small upside down U's all over her tail. And for the hair, I'm just using reds, beautiful reds. As usual, all the colors will be listed in the description down below. So if you want to know which color I've used, you can find them there. You also see them here on screen when I remember to put them there. Sometimes I forget and I put the cap in my hand because that is how I color when I don't have the camera on. I'm doing 2 layers. First I'm blending out all of the colors, and then I'm going in and redefining the hairs a little bit to get make it look a little bit more like hair, actually. Then I'm going in with the small characters. I'm doing the little stone here, kind of just adding shadows to give that dimension. I'm using my toner grays mainly for the reason that I think they had ink in them. They didn't have enough ink, so later on I think I'd switch up for the ends. But I really need to get refillers for all of my grays. Then I'm using the grays again on the fishes. And on the fishes I actually add in a little bit of a zero colorless blender in the middle to make the fish shine a little. Then I'm using some YRs for the fish itself, some oranges. And I'm actually picking in these oranges also into the seashells because I thought I wanted to keep a smaller color scheme so that they all would kind of match with each other when I make mini scenes. Very, very minimal scenes. But I do add on all of the cards, maybe might not be on all of the cards, but almost all of the cards, one or two of these little details. So I'm using the same greens that I used for Ariel's tail, except I think I used YG67 as the deepest to get a little bit more dimension on my turtles. And then the same oranges on the seashells. I'm using the E40s on the kind of curly things. Also, for you think this goes way too fast, I am going to put up a full real-time voiced over version of all of the coloring for all of these things, including all of the 4 mermaids. But I think I'm only showing you 2 of the mermaids in this video. So then you will have the real time, and actually you showed you one of the mermaids in this video, as you can see. Here are kind of my first layout. I changed the layout a bit because I realized I didn't add spacing for the sentiments. But I'm cutting all of these little squares out with a stitched square die to get a little bit extra detail for the border. Then I'm doing my sentiments, and I'm using the sentiments from the stamp set, and I'm gonna heat emboss them. The first one I'm using from a background that I didn't really like the background as a background because it had too much of it wasn't blended enough in the middle, but it worked awesome as the background of a tag to give that tag a little bit more dimension than just the solid color of the cardstock. Then for the rest of the sentiments, I'm going to stamp them in the Oxide inks because I can, and then I'm actually heat embossing them with some clear embossing powder, one at a time. And I'm cutting them out with the same die. Both the sentiments and the die are from my favorite things. I'm adding another color into the mix here with the lipstick because I had that pink mermaid or reddish mermaid that I felt that she really needed a pink sentiment. I'm doing some card bases here, and I did them kind of factory style, one after another. They are cut to 7.5 by 3 3/4 and then scored at 3 3/4. Then I'm putting all of the different cardstocks just taped down on the different bases. I'm adding some foam tape underneath all of the characters, or both characters and the sentiments. The first one, I first added the foam just underneath those 2, and then for the rest of one I'm just going wild with the foam tape and building up my little small scenes. I'm adding some seashells to the little darker mermaid, and some fish and turtle to my Ariel mermaid, and then actually using the stone for the last mermaid, the blue-tailed and green-haired mermaid, because I thought it would be fun to build mini scenes. So these are pretty quick to do, and it was a lot of fun to experiment with different backgrounds and still kind of get a unison series out of it. I like making series of things. It's fun. Here I removed some foam tape because it built too much, because I wanted the tail to be over that sentiment, and I'm finishing it off with a cute little turtle. I'm using a black glaze pen for all of the eyes on the mermaids and on all of the characters. Then I'm going in with the white glaze pen on the shells and the fishes, and a little dotting on the different mermaid tails, just to kind of add a little bit of shine-ish to make them look like they are fishes. They are wet like fishes. I'm also, I just couldn't leave well enough alone, so I go in afterwards with a glittery pen. This is the Crafter Companion Clear glitter pen, and kind of add glitter to the whole mermaid tails and bodies and their little stars, just because I thought it needed some glitter. Yeah, going totally overboard, but hey, it's mermaids. They need to be shining and glittering because that is fun. For a finishing touch, I'm using these little Pretty Pink Posh dewdrops, I think, or clear droplets. That's what they're called, and I'm gluing them down with some nice glues. And here are the close-ups on these 3 cards. If you want to see the pictures even more, you can always head on over to my blog, where I have a blog post written up all about these cards. And I want to thank you so much for watching. If you like this, please thumb it up. It means a lot to me. If you have any questions, just comment down below. Down below you find all of the details and everything. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye!